Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Petty Officer Adam Schultz. We warmly welcome the family of Flying Officer Geoffrey Herbert Brandon Slinn, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, Her Excellency the Honourable Ms Sam Mostyn, and Official Private Secretary Gerard Mandan. We are honoured to acknowledge the delegation attending the 10th anniversary function commemorating Cameron Baird, recipient of the Victoria Cross for Australia and the Medal for Gallantry. Former Chief of Defence Force, Air Chief Marshal Sir Angus Houston and Lady Houston, Mr Dan Kieran, recipient of the Victoria Cross for Australia, Mr Doug Baird, representing the Chief of Army, Brigadier Marcus Fogarty, companions of the Australian War Memorial, Mr Richard Rolfe and Mrs Debbie Rolfe. We also warmly welcome Group Captain Bruce Chandler, retired, representing the Air Force Association of Australia, and the delegation from the Canberra Legacy Madura Military Mega Race. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students visiting from across Australia on behalf of the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Geoffrey Herbert Brandon Slinn. Geoffrey Slinn was born in Sydney on the 16th of November 1912, the son of Herbert and Lilias Slinn. He grew up alongside his sisters, Marjorie, Dorothea, Lilia, Grace and Phyllis, and went on to work as a bank officer at the Bank of Australasia at Martin Place in Sydney. On the 22nd of December 1938, Geoffrey married Dorothy Ada Farmer, known as Peggy. Geoffrey Slinn enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 20th of June 1942 at the age of 29. After initial training, he mustered as air bomber. After some sightseeing in Brisbane, Slinn embarked for the journey to Canada for training. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined British and Commonwealth squadrons based in Britain. Reportedly a devoutly religious man, during the sea voyage, he engaged in Bible study and prayers with others on board. Having arrived at San Francisco, Slinn saw the Golden Gate Bridge and held business meetings with the office manager for Shell Oil Company and others from the Bank of California and the American Institute of Banking. From San Francisco, Slinn travelled by train through Oregon and Washington onto Edmonton, Canada. He wrote to Peggy from Canada, congratulating her on success in her nursing examinations and enviously writing about her holidays. While Peggy would go on to serve with the Australian Auxiliary Medical Women's Services, Slinn travelled to Royal Canadian Air Force Station Defoe in Saskatchewan, where he attended No. 5 Bombing and Gunnery School. From Defoe, Slinn was posted to Central Navigation School in Rivers, near Brandon, Manitoba, where he trained in navigation, photography, and reconnaissance. Having received his aerial observer's wings, he was chosen for additional bombing training. With 2 weeks' leave before this began, he visited Chicago, reporting that he was disgusted to see a lot of luxury living and not much sign of war sacrifice, which the Yanks are supposed to be making. He visited churches, met European writers who had escaped the Nazis, as well as a millionairess, prominent banker, and other important folk, but was annoyed at being asked all sorts of stupid questions, such as what language do you speak in Australia? Granted a commission on the 18th of February 1943, Slinn attended No. 7 Bombing and Gunnery School in Paulson, Manitoba, before leaving Canada in mid-May. Arriving in the United Kingdom, Slinn had opportunities to see the Isle of Man and Scotland and undertake some visits and sightseeing before joining No. 12 Operational Training Unit on the 10th of August 1943. Then, based at Chipping Warden, the men crewed up in this unit, a self-selecting process of placing the different groups of aircrew into one room and allowing them to sort themselves into crews. The crew would train in the aircraft type they were to fly in combat operations, and would often fly together until separated by death, injury, illness, or reposting. Some operational training units detached aircraft to take part in operations. Loss rates in training were high due to inexperience, crowded airspace, poor weather, and enemy action. Trained as bomber aircrew in Wellington, twin-engined, long-range medium bombers, Slinn and his comrades went on to join No. 138 Squadron, RAF, in late November 1943. Based at the clandestine airfield at RAF Tempsford, No. 138 Squadron was part of the Royal Air Force Special Duties Service, a secret air service that dropped supplies and agents into enemy-occupied territory for the Special Intelligence Service and the Special Operations Executive. Supporting the resistance movement in enemy-controlled territories, the squadron delivered supplies and most of the agents through parachute drops. Flying short, Sterling 4-engine heavy bombers under moonlit skies, they would fly to remote fields without special navigational aids and observing strict wireless silence over hostile territory. Aircraft usually flew at about 2,000 feet to navigate to the target field, dropping to about 500 feet as they approached the drop point. The drops had to be accurate to ensure the weighting resistance agents would be able to get the materials dropped and hide them away. Agents were dropped at 600 feet, barely enough time for the parachute to open. By the end of the war, No. 138 Squadron had flown more than 2,500 sorties, dropped 29,000 containers, 10,000 packages, and 995 agents into occupied Europe, losing 70 aircraft in the process. As Flying Officer Slinn and his crew undertook missions over France and Denmark, Slinn kept up a healthy correspondence with home. In January 1944, he wrote to his sister Marjorie, complaining about the English weather, but proud of his crew. The pilot is an Aussie from Brisbane who has one of those invaluable steady temperaments which are essential in big planes. We get along together very well, even though we are of different religions. The rest of the crew are all English fellows. On the 27th of November 1944, Slinn was aboard a Sterling that took off on a mission to drop supplies and an agent to the Danish resistance near Assens. While the drop was successful, no further messages were heard from the aircraft, which did not return to base. The crew were initially listed as missing, and Peggy went to great lengths to find news of her missing husband, writing letters to authorities and then visiting different headquarters in search of information. Nothing more was heard, and while Slinn and his crew were presumed dead, Peggy travelled to the United Kingdom in 1946 and spent 16 months hoping to determine their fate, making inquiries throughout England and Denmark. It wasn't until much later that it was discovered that the aircraft had been shot down by a German Junkers aircraft. By 1949, it had been confirmed that the missing crew members had no known graves. Flight Sergeant Arthur Henry Bedgood, Sergeant Reginald Hughes Barrett, Pilot Officer Charles Ellman, Flying Officer Thomas Patrick McHale, Flight Sergeant Kenneth Naylor, Flight Lieutenant Reginald Ronald Whittam DFC, and Flying Officer Geoffrey Herbert Brandon Slinn, who was 32 years old when he died. Today, they are commemorated on the Runnymede Memorial in England. Geoffrey Slinn's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Geoffrey Herbert Brandon Slinn, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.